and welcome to MOD. We are the Museum of Discovery at UniSA, and if you want to visit us when we reopen, you can find us in Adelaide on the corner of North Terrace and adjacent to Morford Street Bridge. We are a museum that looks at the intersection between science and art. I'm going to introduce you to one of our exhibits today. My name is Debbie, and I am joined today with Sam.
Greetings.
So it's pretty weird today because since our museum is shut down at the moment, Sam and I are the only ones who are in the museum. So it's a strange place, but it means you get the privilege of coming in and meeting some of the siblings in our exhibition. Our current exhibition is called 7 Siblings of the Future. So you'll meet 7 people who live in 2050 and explore some of the choices they might have to make in their hypothetical world. Today we are going to be meeting Mia and talk about some of the things that affect their life specifically. So let's say hello.
Hi. Are you interested in a free haircut? I'm a barber apprentice and I need some volunteers. It's a win-win. You get a cool haircut and I get to practice. Come with me.
It does sound like a win-win, so...
Short and
since
sweet.
a lot of places are closed, I can't actually get a haircut.
You've got a 30-minute limit at the moment, I think.
A 30-minute limit? I can handle that. So, welcome to Mia's salon. We are going to be taking a seat in one of these chairs, and I'll show you quickly what kind of haircuts I might be able to get in the future, but we're not going to go through the whole activity today. If you do want to see the whole activity, go and have a look at the MOD website where you can see a full live stream of the entire 1-hour tour of the whole museum, and you'll be able to see it a little bit more there. But I'll still give you a quick snapshot. So I come and sit down in the seat.
Make yourself comfortable.
I am comfortable and I can start. Let's see. I am sitting comfortably. I'm not sure if this one particularly suits me. So Mia is going to be talking to me and asking me some questions that just assess what kind of things I believe are important. So for example with Mia, they really like growing organic food and want to start an organic food restaurant, but they lost their job as a barber, or not as a barber, as a barista to a robot, and so they're worried that maybe there should be something that is maintaining a minimum wage for every job. So I'm just going to show you up to there, I think. Hold on, let's just see this one really quickly. Nope. That is not my favourite one.
I'm a fan of the bowl cut. It needs to come back.
So one of the things that is really interesting about Mia is they used to work as a barista and they are now a barber's apprentice because they lost their job as a barista to a robot. They are, however, worried now that they are going to lose their new job as a barber's apprentice to a robot again. They have met other robot barbers and they admit also that they are doing a pretty good job. But at the same time, that means that Mia might face unemployment in the near future again. This is not an unusual concept. This is a concept that has been around for quite a long time. So when we are looking at automation, using different types of machines to help us augment our life and make our life easier in different ways, this concept has been around for a very long time. So if I remember correctly, and I'm going to go into a little bit of history here, one of the first mentions of automation was in a text called Leidzi, which was, I think, written it was somewhere around the 3rd century BCE, so a really, really long time ago, which means this idea has been in our philosophy a lot longer than it's been in practice. It has even been talked about by famous philosophers such as Aristotle, who proposed that in the future there would be different types of almost human-like automated machines that would be doing a lot of our human tasks for us to make our life easier. We can already see the effects of that. So we have things like the Roomba, which goes around and vacuums up so that we don't have to do that, and other things that we just don't even think about as being part of our normal everyday life, such as a microwave, or machines like that. The primary difference, however, between machines and robotics is that robotics has some sort of computer programming within it. A machine doesn't, and a robot does, which means it gives it a lot greater versatility, and it means that it can do a lot of other tasks that a machine can't do. So looking at things like machines, we can drive a car, but we're the ones operating the car in it. It doesn't do any decision
Actually,
making itself.
I'll jump in. Boromin has asked about how you think it will affect people. We talked about automated cars in a previous stream, and Boromin is asking how you think automation of cars might affect people working, I suppose, Uber, taxis, that sort of thing.
Okay, so that's a really broad question. That goes back into that unemployment question. When we are looking at automation, we can go back to places such as looking at the Industrial Revolution and looking at how the introduction of machines affected people at that time. There's an interesting story around there where, because there was this industrial boom and this increase of machines in the workplace, it meant that a lot of people doing certain types of very handy work, their jobs became obsolete to machines.
This is back in the 1800s,
yeah, this
isn't
is
it?
in the 1800s. So one example of this is the Luddites. So what was the person's name?
Ned Ludd.
Yeah, so Ned Ludd was either a real or hypothetical person, we're not entirely sure, who was a weaver, and they lost their job to machines who could do that job for them. Their job became obsolete. Angry at the facing unemployment, they gained a lot of followers who called themselves Luddites, and they went around sabotaging different machines in order to show their displeasure at unemployment. However, looking from the Industrial Revolution to now, when we have such a huge amount of machines in our everyday society, we're not necessarily looking at lower unemployment rates. Before the Industrial Revolution, unemployment as an economic theory wasn't really well established as it is now. The rate of unemployment was quite low. So we have seen a small increase in unemployment, but since the 1800s to now, not a whole lot. So when we're looking at adding intelligent robots into our society, things like driverless cars, it brings up those questions again. We're in a place where when computing was added to society, this was another fear that came around. And now that robots are taking off and artificial intelligence especially is taking off, that fear remains that soon our jobs will become obsolete. There are a few different theories about this unemployment due to robots and artificial intelligence. There is the pessimistic idea of, well, we'll be unemployed and there's nothing we can do about it. There's the economic theory of, well, right now it might lead to some unemployment, but in the future it will lead to a more robust society. So it really depends on what kind of theory you're buying into. For a person losing their job as a taxi driver to a driverless car, that is terrible. It's really awful. Maybe there need to be things in place that help that kind of unemployment. Maybe the unemployment benefits need to be assigned to people who are losing their jobs to automated machines. But in the long term, maybe we are going to increase a better society.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. Benny's also asked what other industries we think might be more affected by AI, robotics, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so there are a lot of industries that can employ robotics to do dangerous work. So there are robots that go into bomb sites to defuse bombs. Clearly the people who had to go and do that, their jobs are now obsolete. That's not a bad thing. It means those people usually get trained in how to use those robots to go into them. Other industries, most of the industries that are going to be affected are ones that are low creativity, that require a lot more just logical thought processing or lots of smaller individual tasks over and over again. So for example, within my specific job as a scientist, I used quite a few robots that would do some of the handiwork for me, which mechanically meant I saved a lot of time. So there was one robot that was able to slice cells up in an onion really, really fine so I could isolate something to a single cell. If I did that myself, it would literally take me days, whereas the robot did it in a few hours. So those kind of mechanical jobs, they might potentially become obsolete. Maybe there will be cleaning robots and cleaners won't be needed in the same capacity. The industries that are going to be affected by it the most are the ones that require more repetition. In saying that though, there are a lot of jobs that require a lot of intelligence that robots might also help with when you're looking at artificial intelligence. So robots being able to detect melanomas, for example, that's a really good thing for society. And some artificial intelligence robots that are looking at identifying melanomas are often more effective than some of the doctors. In the same way though, or in the opposite way, that doesn't mean they have the same decision-making processes as us. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the psychology of decision-making, you can go and look at our video about Eucalara. But one of the things I talked about in there was the difference between explicit information and tacit information. Explicit information is those logical things. They're the facts. They're the fact that Mia is giving a haircut. The tacit information is, oh, actually, you know what, that colour doesn't suit me. So the jobs that aren't going to be affected are creative jobs. Things that require emotion, passion, creativity. However, with the loss of jobs at the level of being made automatic, those mechanical kind of jobs, that means that hopefully as society adopts those things, the level of education also increases, which means people are starting to move to jobs that require that higher creativity and can put to use those human nature, mind amazingness. That's my very scientific way of
scientific term there.
Of saying, using the very basic human creativity that we have. So since the Industrial Revolution to now, the quality of education has increased, the amount of education has increased because a lot of that automatic those jobs have been being filled by automation instead of being required by people. And so people have the time, the economy is boosted, so the government is able to put more money into subsidizing education and these things. And so there are now people who are in more educated jobs that require that kind of human nature as part of it.
I suppose also, aside from education, creativity, jobs that require empathy, social interaction, we're not at the stage, and who knows if we'll be at the stage in 2050, where robots or AI can replace that social connection, of which Mia hairdressing is possibly one of those.
Exactly. So a lot of people, when they visit their hairdresser, they like to sit in the seat and they like to talk to their hairdresser and they like to be pampered. They like to get the hair massage. They like to have their cup of tea and feel like it's a luxurious experience. Other people are like...
What hairdresser have you gone to? I'd like a cup of tea at my hairdresser.
Oh, I always get a cup of tea or a coffee or whatever I want. That kind of experience might not actually be translated through a robot. It might only be translated through a human. So looking at theories of unemployment due to automation, another theory is that we will then put more emphasis on jobs within the public sector, which robots can't control. They can't do things like show that empathy. The pastoral care, maybe that will become a bigger industry and more heavily subsidised. More money will go into improving the public sector and the quality of life for individual people. So these are all debates that happen when it comes to robotics. I didn't really talk very much about the engineering in the end because it is such a big, broad topic. But what I really wanted you to see is that our life will change. Most likely by 2050, there will be different types of artificial intelligence. There will be different types of robots that are controlling, or not controlling, but augmenting, hopefully, parts of our life. And instead of it being we become obsolete due to robots or that artificial intelligence takes over, most likely it's going to be a case of an augmentation instead.
Benny's also got a question about, obviously, when people are losing their jobs to automation, this can sound all very nice in theory, but the cold hard facts when you've lost your job to a robot or AI, he's looking at questions about universal basic income, shorter working weeks, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So if we have robots that are able to fulfill some of the aspects of our life, it's possible that we will move to different models where we have shorter working weeks. This is the theory that went behind automation in the first place, but we are still 200 years later, living in a society where we still predominantly work 40 hours a week. That's the standard week. Other countries have adopted different formats, or different companies have adopted different formats where people do work less hours, and they have been shown to be just as efficient, but a lot happier socially as well. But you lose your job, and it's awful. We're currently in a global pandemic where a lot of people are losing their jobs because of having to maintain social isolation, and it's a massive problem. So that goes into a lot of political theory in how we help people who are unemployed, and how we help them forge new skills or develop new skills and find new careers that they can be part of society and supportive of society. So whole other can of worms. But even just in this one exhibit with Mia, who is giving me a haircut and chatting about robots, we see that their life is so heavily influenced by history, philosophy, and science. It is inescapable that our future world is very much going to be influenced by our current history, philosophy, and science, as well as their own. There's no escaping that particular fact of life. And in the future, after AI, there might be something else. Maybe they're on the brink of some new technology that is even more advanced than artificial intelligence that we don't even know about. And these kind of debates are still going to be continued along. So that's Mia in a nutshell. I hope you learned something. We have one more live stream today. We will be talking to Alex at 2 o'clock today, Adelaide time. If you want to see any of their other siblings and their Deep and Meaningfuls, just jump on the mod website and you'll be able to visit them and see a little bit more of the science behind what influenced their world. Also, if you want to watch one of our full live streams of our whole tour, you can go into that on the mod website as well. That goes for about an hour, and you can see us kind of just having fun around the museum.
Thanks. We'll
Bye.
see you at 2 o'clock Adelaide time.